Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we are back here with Sheila Stewart. We are live on Zoom today, finally, and also here on the podcast. She's the author of, well, quite a few paranormal romances. Let's welcome our friend Sheila Stewart back to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, sweetheart. Please introduce yourself to everyone if you don't mind, and then we'll
You
get
bet.
started. I know we got some great topics ahead of us.
You bet. I'm Sheila Stewart. I write paranormal romance. I've got 18 books published with the 19th on its way. You can check out my website at www.sheilastewart.com. That's Sheila with an IE.
Perfect. And you're the author. How many books now?
18.
Oh my goodness. Working on 19 though.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, fantastic. And I know for today, we're going to talk a little bit, how do we say it? About vampires, right?
Yes.
A little bit dark, about the Darkness series specifically, I believe, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
So vampires, yay or nay?
Me?
Yes.
I didn't know much about them, to be honest with you. Well, want to know one thing I know? I auditioned years ago to be the Vampirilla. Remember Vampirilla?
Did you? Yes.
Yes. We're talking 20 years ago. I didn't make it, but I was one of the finalists for the new cover model. So that's all I know about vampires. Yes.
Well, I love vampires. As you can tell by my Darkness series, which is 8 books. Yeah, I think I've been fascinated with vampires for, I don't know, about 20 years. I started watching a series called, I don't know if you've heard of it, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Of course.
Yeah, I started watching her and I was hooked. Just the sheer entertainment of the vampires. Just I rooted for some of the vampires over the main character because they were so fascinating. They had so much depth to them, so much that could be more to them. My favorite on the show was Spike. He was just a bad boy vampire, but you rooted for him. You wanted him to get better. Another series that it was a spinoff from from Buffy's called Angel. And that's Buffy's love interest. He got his own show and he was a hunky vampire trying to make his city a better place, away from keeping some of the bad vampires away, and etc. And so, yeah, that really piqued my interest. It's like, I think I could write vampire stories. I think it would be interesting.
Yeah,
definitely. I also watched the originals. It's a story about the original vampires. It was a TV series. And again, the vampires were good guys to a point. They did bad things, but overall, they're good guys. And so I kept going with the whole genre. It was just piqued my interest. And then my husband showed me a show called Supernatural. Well, that I got hooked on it. And I'm not ashamed to say I rewatch it several times, the whole series, the whole 15 years. And if nobody knows what Supernatural is, it's about 2 hunky brothers going across the country fighting off vampires, demons, ghosts, the whole bit. So they don't just kill all the vampires. There are some vampires that they understand want to be better, that don't want to, take humans and drink blood. And so that was kind of a fuel for me as well. Not all vampires are bad. So yeah, those are the main things that have really fascinated me. There's been a few movies that have vampires in them that I've watched. Queen of the Damned, which was a really good one about Lestat, supposed to be the main vampire. So yeah, I watched a lot of vampire stuff, and it really
inspired your work.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And I know when I was writing it, I would ask my husband, like, do you think this is too much? Do you think I should make this guy a little meaner, or do you think I should make this person even better? And he was my sounding board.
And I got to see him today. He was helping you technically troubleshoot. So hello, hubby. That's awesome to have support in all aspects with you.
Yes, definitely. He was actually the one that helped me create the Darkness series.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I threw a lot of ideas at him, but this time we were out for a walk and we were just talking. It was a hot day. We were just talking about, we could use some rain. We could use some overcast, just to, change things, make it cooler. And so we just got talking, and I said, wouldn't it be fascinating if vampires could come out during the day, but not die? And
Mm.
so from there, we started talking about it. And I said, okay, so the only way they'd be able to come out is if there is no sun. Otherwise, there really isn't a way that you can make them. I mean, in the originals, they had rings that
Mm-hmm.
prevented them from dying in the under the sun. So I also didn't want my vampires to totally go poof if they are in sun. I wanted it more like they got a internal deep suntan. So it discouraged them from wanting to be in the sun. So they're still darkness, they're still luring or lurking in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just kept talking about it and ideas just kept rolling in my head. I said, okay, so let's put a city in darkness. How would we do that? And so we brainstormed some things and nothing really piqued my interest. And we had just had a partial solar eclipse. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, the sun was blotted out?
Mm.
And so we kept talking about that. And I'm like, okay, it would have to be magic, some sort of magic to prevent the sun from coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kept rolling with it and rolling with it. And eventually we came up with Seducing the Darkness, where the vampires are good and bad. And for the darkness to become over the city of Jacob's Cove,
Mm-hmm.
there's a evil vampire, of course, there always is, who wants to bring back the king of vampires. And the only way he can do it is by sacrificing 5 teenage girls. So it's kind of dark.
Wow.
but but it'll bring on the, the darkness. So it's like a dome of darkness over the city.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we were just chatting about that and just brainstorming. And so I just kept rolling with that. It's cool. It's dark in the city. You're going to have vampires running free. How do I prevent that? So it came up with the prince of vampires does not want his father raised because his father is brutal and horrible and, takes out entire towns for just no reason. And so I wanted him to be good. And for the female, I wanted her a vampire as well, so she can understand how vampires are and take out the ones that she knows are horrible. So I put the two of them together, sort of. I I made the hero of the show of the story, sorry, um, sleep with some women to prevent his wife from sticking with him.
Mm.
So he knows that if he stays with her, she's in danger if his father does break free. So she hates him, of course, just justifiably. And so she's going out on her own, taking out vampires. She's not even thinking twice about them. She just knows they're evil. She wants them gone out of her city.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes around, she, lurks in the darkness, waiting for the vampires to come out and waiting for the people to do stupid things, which would, you know, entice a vampire to want to take them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it became one book, and I had the whole thing come to a conclusion at the end. So I submitted it to my publisher and she loved it. And she said, but one thing, And I'm like cringing.
Oh.
Do you want to make it a series? I went, yeah, I want to make it a series.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I didn't even think twice. And she goes, okay, so you send in a um, a blurb of what you would like the second book to look like. And so I'm racking my brain going, okay, how do I make it a series? Because I've pretty much wrapped everything up at the end of Seducing the Darkness. So I was thinking to myself and going, okay, but there is another character in Seducing the Darkness. He's an FBI, where he's a private eye, and I could use him in the story. So he became the second book, the second book in the Darkness series. And it just clinged to me. He's got to be human. He doesn't know anything about vampires because, of
Mm-hmm.
course, they've always been in the dark. And he starts investigating the missing girls. And he comes across Trinity, the female man, the heroine, and they sort of start investigating together. And he discovers she's a vampire, which freaks him out
Uh-huh.
quite a bit. And so they start working together to try and stop the darkness. And I won't give it away to say exactly how it happened, but it happened. And then in the second book, there's still darkness. The whole series is about the darkness, except for the last two. So I had to bring him into the story and make him likable so that people would want to read the second book.
Oh.
Yeah. So I made him likable. I made him understand vampires. He's creeped out, but he's starting to understand the vampires.
Got it.
Yeah. So his story began to build. And in that first story, Trinity works for a science geek. And I thought, well, he'd be kind of a cool, character on his own. And so his story started to develop. And from his story came another story about Basil's longtime, I guess you could call him friend, who helped raise him when his father was brutal. And that story clicked in my mind and went, well, let's do some backstory on why he's with Basil. What made him want to protect him away from his father? So there's another book. And then from there, another character sprung up. And from there, another character sprung up, and they just kept coming to me.
Wow.
So I at book 8, I'm like, okay, I could take this forever, but I think it's got to end. So in the 6th book, I have it all come to an end, and everybody lives happily ever after. And then the last 2 books are what happens after the darkness is brought back. So yeah, after my publisher mentioning, could you make it a series, just blew up, and I just couldn't stop creating people, creating vampires. So it was very, very interesting how my mind thought. It interested me, like, oh wow, I actually can do this, like I can write the story. It's quite interesting. But yeah, it was originally a standalone book.
Did I lose you? Hello, hello?
No, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here. I'm
okay.
looking at my notes.
Okay. I'm like, oh no, we had technical issues early. I'm like, no, not again. Good, good,
No,
good.
no, I'm here.
Go ahead. We're listening.
Yeah, so I'll read you a blurb
Sure.
from Seducing the Darkness, just to give the people
Mm-hmm.
an idea. Trinity was once a fragile girl. Being taken by a powerful vampire prince changed her. Discovering him in the arms of another woman changed destiny.
Mm.
Alone, she's learned fast how to be tough, how to survive, and how to protect the people in her city from the evil that lurks in the dark. She was managing just fine until Basil walked back into her life. Basil Hawthorne has been the reigning prince of vampires since banishing his father to the realm of dark mystics decades earlier. When a prophetic dream makes him realize Trinity's life is at risk, he decides the only way to save her is to push her away. Doing so is not easy. Trinity is the only woman he has ever loved, ever will love, and he can't seem to let her go. When rumors arise of a plan to raise the king and blot out the sun, both Trinity and Basil know they must do everything to stop it, even if it means working together. Despite the betrayal and the threat, they find themselves drawn to each other. Love has no boundaries, especially in the face of danger. But will they be able to stop the ritual before it's too late, or will the darkness capture them both? So yeah, that's seducing the darkness.
Ooh,
Yeah, I I thought I would read an excerpt of it as well if we have
sure.
time.
Of course we do.
All right, this is an excerpt from Seducing the Darkness. That damn itch she'd been having lately was back, and it was driving her nuts. Rolling her shoulders, she watched two redheads staggering from the bar's exit and towards a dimly lit street. Here we go again. She kept to the shadows as she followed after them. Uneventfully, they made it to their car and drove off. She hoped the cops were out tonight and those two were hauled into the sleep it off in their drunk. Turning back to the club, she waited and watched for the next 2 hours and was glad nothing had happened so far, but the night was still young. Can you smell it? She didn't jump, but slowly looked over at Basil, who appeared next to her. She hated when he just appeared out of thin air, but she knew he loved that entrance the best. Your stink? Always. He didn't sneer at her, but slowly lifted his hand and lit the cigarette between his fingers. The blood of a human. Does it still draw you in, make you hungry, make you want? I've got a strong will. Deliberately, she shifted away from him. It wasn't only the smoke that bothered her, and always had, but his scent. It pissed her off that he could still make her ache. She waved the smoke away annoyingly and shifted just a bit further away. Why are you skulking, Basil? Because if you're following me, I'm going to so kick your ass. I was in the neighborhood. She glared at him and growled her response. If you're here to drink, let me warn you now, I won't allow it. Who am I supposed to drink from now that I no longer am nourished by your blood? She chose not to answer that. Why does it seem that you're always around, lurking in the darkness, around places that aren't your usual hangouts? Unless there's a reason. She thought about stabbing. She thought stabbing into her and thought she didn't want to believe it. She had to ask, are you trying to take more females of your own? Are you the one abducting young girls? Which one was within one quick and easy flick, he tossed the cigarette into the darkness. The red tip glowed as it flew through the air before landing on the gravel to bounce and spit out a cloud of red sparkling fireworks. I will never dignify with that answer. It's so obvious now that I think about it. I was young when you took me, made me yours. Is that what you're doing, Basil? Making another mate? His icy blue eyes narrowed dangerously as he stepped closer. I have a mate, and to think you would even have such a thought sickens me. You don't have me, Basil. Her voice grew dangerously. If I am so wrong, then why explain to me why you're always in the darkness, skulking near all these young girls?
Mm.
The very same reason you are, my dear. He ran a finger along her face, making her scowl. She snorted, stepping away from him before he decided to do something that would piss her off. Leaning against the building behind them, Basil looked off into the distance of the bar and the people waiting in line to be allowed. You think so little of me, and that's a shame. But I suppose I've done it to myself. Yes, Trinity, I am looking to find out who took those girls, as are you. And why, you might ask? He shifted towards her, sliding in nice and close and making her pulse speed up. Because I have a feeling I'm connected to the reason why. So yeah, that's the excerpt.
I love the excerpts.
Yeah.
Do you have them memorized by now or no? Kind of?
No. No, there's so many books. I can't memorize them all.
Wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to read the excerpts just to catch myself up on
But it brings you
what's
back to that time and place when you were
yeah.
writing, right? Pen to paper,
Yep.
you probably can remember where, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
sure.
Great.
So, yeah, that's the start of the Darkness series.
Awesome. And we have only 2 minutes left. I apologize, but we started late today.
Yep, that's
Tell
fine.
us what else do you want to share?
Oh, I'd just like people to check out my website and see my other books, and hopefully they'll be interested in them and pick them up and want to read them. And I would love to hear from the viewers. If they, have any ideas, they can email me at romance.sheilas@shaw.ca. And yeah, check out my website at www.sheilastewart.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Looking forward to speaking with you again, and congratulations
Thanks.
on all of your work. And thank you to your husband who's so supportive in your writing and in your technical endeavors.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Sheila Stewart. We appreciate your time here today. And thank you, listeners. We
Great. Thank you.
appreciate you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.